All right, let's get to some OU football. We're talking offensive line. Offensive line. And I want to start by saying this. Brent Venables and kind of his demeanor, his expectations, the way that he holds guys accountable. I will say it aligns very well with Bill Bedenbaugh's style, right? That is just like that. That's exactly how Bill wants to coach his guys and treat his guys. So I think that in itself is a very positive thing for the guys in that offensive line room. And maybe the most important thing that I've been able to witness and talk to some of these players about is the fact that there has been a mentality change in that room. And they realize how they're supposed to practice. They realize that Bedenbaugh wasn't being ridiculous last year or the year before, trying to get them to practice the way he wanted them to practice. Now they know. And I think that's a huge step for the group. And this group of guys, while they got a long way to go, I think that mentality change and understanding what it's supposed to look like each and every day, that has resulted in a real determination from the entire room to get better and to understand what it takes to get better at this position. And I do think there's no doubt that all the criticism that they got last year, and I know I was one of the most vocal critics of that group last year, all the criticism they got last year certainly is a motivating factor for this season. But there's a lot that has changed since the end of the season. And I think that overall, it's been very, very positive in how it has affected this offensive line room. And that's a really good place to start, Ted.
Well, I totally agree. I think the best that offensive line, or the best they've played in years past, and this isn't just Bill's offensive lines, it's going back, as far as you want to go, are groups that play with attitude, play with physicality, and play with discipline. And I think that everything about the way they practice all spring is about developing attitude, developing physicality, and developing discipline. I mean, the way they start off practice with either some type of physical drill, the just the demeanor, the intensity, it just ups everyone's level. And I think, just like you said, and it's one of those things that we had talked about early on, that this is going to mesh really well with the way Coach Bedenbaugh wants to coach, not just Venables and the way he structures practice and how accountable he holds everyone, but also the strength and conditioning, right? That factors into it too. So I think whenever you combine all of that, it creates a really good environment for the offensive line to have some big improvement over last season.
Yeah, Bedenbaugh and Schmitty see eye to eye. They are cut from the same cloth. It is about making guys push through things as opposed to coddling them. And when the strength and conditioning staff now has a similar mentality, and now you've got an offensive coordinator that was an offensive lineman, he understands the position. He knows what it takes to be great at the position. It changes the mentality of the room, right? And I think that what Jeff Lebby brings, first of all, just look at the guy. I mean, the guy's built like a house. Mm-hmm. So you look at him, and these O linemen, they understand that Lebby is trying to set them up for success, and he understands what they're trying to accomplish, and he understands what they have to do and how they have to do it to accomplish what he wants in his scheme. That is different That's different than what has been here in the past. And that's just Levy being an offensive line guy. And if someone's like, well, does that really matter? It does. Like it does. When you are that, it's only natural. When you are listening to someone else rip into you about what you are doing, if they don't know a ton about your world, you're like, okay, man. I mean, all right. But when they played the same position as you and they went through it, and you know that, they're kind of one of you, it hits a little different. That's just human nature. And that's a big part of kind of how football works. I don't know, but I think like all of this combined, Schmitty, Levy, Beanbo kind of having more allies in the way that he wants to go about doing things. Like, I don't know. It's a better recipe for success for this group.
No, I totally agree. And you've heard Cale Gundy say it a couple of different times about Levy, that he's the most well-rounded offensive coordinator that he's ever been around. And it's because he's coached pretty much all of the positions at one time or another, played offensive line. Now he's doing the quarterback thing. So yeah, and I think it just makes for the perfect kind of mix. And what I wanted to ask you is, because we talked about some of Bill's philosophy and how he's coached some of the run game stuff, and like what maybe he personally wanted to do a little bit more of. Like, how has Levy's offense and like Bill's style of what he wanted to do, like how's that meshed together?
I think really well, because Bill's known Levy for a really long time. He recruited Levy when he was at Tech. Like, that's like, so it is the philosophical blend is good. Now, it's just you look at what Levy likes to do in the run game. It's just a lot of variations of zone, and it's like right in between outside zone and inside zone. I call it like mid zone, and that's what Bill likes. And they're still going to do some of the counter stuff, but different variations of it. Like, you'll see more of the counter stuff where a guard's pulling and then a tight end is the second puller, as opposed to the GT stuff. Now, would I be surprised if they sprinkled that in every once in a while? No. It's a great, wait for it, counter in the running game. Like, there'll be some of that stuff in there, but Levy really is, he loves the variations with different motions, different actions in the backfield to get to very similar mid-zone concepts, whether that's regular mid-zone, split zone, guys going in motion behind the play. There's a lot of eye candy in there. It's similar to some of the stuff we saw from Lincoln, in the backfield, to just confuse safeties and linebackers, draw their eyes. And of course, you've got the threat of Dylan Gabriel being able to run it a little bit. So it's not like they're reinventing the wheel. You know what I mean? I think that as far as the biggest difference in the philosophy for me is, your number one run play is no longer this play that takes forever to hit the line of scrimmage, where you're basically just walling guys off. Now your top run play is, hey, move that dude off the line of scrimmage. Roll his ass to the second level.
Doubles and sifting up.
And you're practicing that every single day with that mentality, every single day. Zone combo that guy into that backer and get great at it, because we're going to run 20 variations of this play. They're all going to look the same, but listen, this is what we do. And of course, he's going to have game plan runs. He's going to see stuff where, defenses have weaknesses. They've shown vulnerabilities against concepts. Of course, that's going to happen. That's good coaching. And Jeff Levy and Bill Bedenbaugh are damn good coaches. But I just love kind of the mentality change of like aggressiveness coming off the ball with velocity. I call it velocity, right? Velocity has speed and direction. If anyone is a physics nerd, you know what I'm talking about. But it's less passive than like all of that position blocking that we ended up seeing some of that GT counter stuff have. towards kind of the last couple of years. So I just think it changes like a lineman's frame of mind going into a season, going into a game, knowing they're like, hey, our number one run play, we're going to run it 20 times, maybe 25 times in a game, some variation of mid zone. And I'm going to get to roll off the ball, combo with my buddy, and bury this dude. And like that just, as opposed to like, and I cannot stress how much more fun that is for the centers, as opposed to being like, oh, I am going to block back 20 times a game and hope that someone from the front side of the plate doesn't fall into my legs and break my ankle. Like, I can't stress how much better that is playing center in this scheme than it was in the last one. Oh my gosh.
The beauty of it, I think, is that you mentioned there's a lot of eye candy and guys coming across the formations, different backfield sets. Maybe you add a tight end as a split zone type of concept or something like that. But all of that, you can do it a million different ways, but it's all blocked the exact same.
Yes.
Right? And a lot of the running game from previous years was all blocked differently. Like there was a bunch of different type of blocking schemes for the way the running game pieced together instead of this. And I know there's still going to be some gap stuff in there that you mentioned, but the meat and potatoes is all going to be in offensive line terms, the exact same thing.
And if you get really good at that exact same thing, then, but you got to remember that mid zone play, you build a ton of stuff off it, right? All the play action stuff, the boot stuff. Like if you want to change the launch point in the pocket and you can build it off that, like if you get good at running that concept, even though you can do it out of different formations, different motions, different shifts, like all of that stuff, that's why you see so many teams in the NFL majoring in zone running, right? Because first of all, it's the hardest concept to defend defensively because there's so many variables. Like it changes things. It allows the running back to be an athlete, uses vision, uses talent, like all of that stuff. And it makes the defense react. Man, that was we talked a lot about this. Like if you're on the front side of that counterplay, like, you know what's coming. Like when you're trying to defend zone, and you can speak to this better than I can, but when you're trying to defend zone as a defensive lineman or a linebacker, it's like, I need to stay in my gap. I need to stay in my gap. I need to stay in my gap. These guys are running off the ball. I'm trying to find the ball. Like it's just, I think it's way more difficult to defend this new running style. Now, if they go into the season and they can't block worth a shit and they can't run the ball at all, then I'll say, yeah, I was wrong. But I believe in what Levy does. I believe, and then you factor in the tempo and all that. That's a different conversation. But just looking at like the core concepts of his running game that I've studied over the, watching his teams at Ole Miss the last couple of years, man, it's not the most complicated stuff in the world, but if you get really good at it, it's damn hard to stop. I mean, that's been proven.
Yep. No, it's exciting. Yeah. Whenever you piece it all together, it's not necessarily the scheme that is difficult. It's the speed at which it's thrown at you. Obviously, if it's done physically and you're worn down and you're tired, that makes it even worse. Fatigue makes a coward out of any man. That's what they always say, right? And that's the best way to do it. Wear you down and just keep punching you in the face with it. So I'm excited about it.
Yeah, we went down like a philosophy rabbit hole there. I blacked out.
I shouldn't have asked you that question, maybe.
This is why we podcast. This is why this isn't a radio show where we have to take commercial breaks. Okay, let's talk some tackles. Let's start with Anton Harrison. I know a lot of people saw the clip of Ethan Downs giving him the business in the W drill. And
it's like maybe
did he not hear the whistle?
I don't know. He didn't look like he even really started.
I will say this. I had so many people DM me that clip because I was so hard on Anton last year. And I'm going to continue to be very hard on him because he's got so much talent. But this young man has come a long way. My big frustration with him last year was I didn't think he played very hard, and I wasn't sure how much he cared. And that wasn't just on game day. That was on the practice field, in the classroom, just like doing everything the right way. I am told this guy is completely bought in now. I've had multiple coaches tell me night and day difference. Had one coach tell me it's like he's a different human. And he has done everything that Jerry Schmidt has asked him to do. He's in much better condition. He's going to have to continue to get an even better condition because we want him to be a dominant player, obviously, but you also have the tempo factor of the way that Levy wants to run the offense, but he is putting in the work and he is handling all his business in the weight room, in the meeting room, in the classroom. And would you look at this? He's doing all of that right, and he's playing much better football on the practice field. That is not a coincidence in my mind. Now, he still has a lot to work on, right? He's got to play with lower pads. He's got to play with better technique. He needs to be more proactive with his hands in pass protection. But this spring, the winter and the spring with Schmitty has been huge for him. The mentality change has taken place, and now it's time to see how good he can get with the talent that he's got. And I think they're going to be able to bring it out of him, man. And I hope he keeps going the way that he's going, because everything I'm hearing, man, it's exciting, because I really don't want to have to come on here during this season and crush this kid anymore, because I think he can play some damn good football if he continues on this trajectory.
Well, that's good. I mean, he plays one of the most important positions on the entire field, and if he's flipped his mindset and he's bought in, then that's a good thing. Here's the thing. I feel like in the past, you had the out or the ability to somewhat coast a little bit, and not everyone was on the same page about holding everyone accountable, right? And the demands that were being asked of everyone. You don't really have that luxury anymore.
No.
Head coach to position coach to strength and conditioning coach, and even all the way through like the rest of the facility, all of the other people that are working there, like it's different. And you better buy in and dig in and start playing your best football, and at least get better and improve and play with that type of intensity every day, or life is going to be miserable and you're going to get left behind.
That's a great way of putting it. I wish I could see. I wish I was in the film session of that W drill rep he had against Downs.
He almost got Beanbo's ACL torn there. Someone got thrown into him.
Can we give Beanbo a shout out for the athleticism?
They're
staying
good.
Up.
Pretty good.
Little hand to protect his knee. I like it.
He wasn't even looking at the play. It was all like through his peripheral, because he was looked right at Harrison, still yelling at him about whatever just went down. That was great.
What are you doing? I know exactly. That's exactly what he was saying. I'm sure. Okay. Wanya Morris. This guy has completely changed his body. Now my man still got a thick lower half. There's no doubt about it. Big booty Judy, old Wanya Morris, but he's in much better condition, man. He's changed his attitude, very similar to what I said about Anton. Just talking to the strength and conditioning staff about Wanya, his level of investment has changed. I mean, He is taking pride in the way he's handling everything. Workouts, practice, class, tutors, like everything. And the coaches say he's locked in and he's a different guy. And that should translate to him playing some good football, and it has. Now he still needs to get stronger. He still needs to use his hands better. He needs to be, he needs to be more violent. That's probably the best way to put it. Guy's got to be more violent. But been a little banged up here toward the end of spring ball. But before that, I mean, he had put a string of practices together that were by far the best practices he's had since he's been here. And it's not even close. Just consistent, just locking guys down in pass protection, moving guys off the ball in the zone running game. Assignments were clean, no mental errors, like that type of stuff. And that's progress, man. And he's nowhere near a finished product. But I will say this, when he showed up and got out on the practice field for the first time, right? Remember, came in with all that hype. It started as a freshman at Tennessee. It did not look the way that they thought it was going to look. And now it looks a lot like the way they thought it was going to look. And that's big time, because he is a pivotal player for this football team, right? Because he's played in some games. Like, now he's got the right attitude. They need a right tackle, man. And if he can continue to improve the way he has and continue to work with the mentality that he now has, he can be a really good right tackle. I mean, really, really solid. So once again, very exciting. Very exciting.
Well, it's a very common thread, whether it's, defensive guys that we've talked about, offensive linemen. There's a lot of guys that are supposedly different guy this spring compared to what we've seen in the fall and in previous times. And if that holds true, and we're talking about, because this isn't just a Wanya Morris thing, it's not just an Anton Harrison thing. How many guys have we heard this about? It's like
a lot.
The majority of the roster, like anyone that you talk about, pretty much. If that's a legitimate deal, and it's not just kind of people getting caught up in the moment with it, like, your entire roster sounds like it's going to be like head and shoulders better than it was a season ago in all aspects, in the weight room, on the field, like across the board. That's some vast improvement in a very short amount of time.
Yeah. And talent with discipline wins a lot of football games normally.
Yeah. Discipline matters, man. Discipline matters. There's no way around it, especially at this age group with this amount of guys. You've got to have discipline. And I think this is, obviously it's more than Schmitty, but I think it's the strength and conditioning is where it all starts for me.
Bean Bo, and he said that we did the huddle, but he's told me this before. The way that he says it is interesting. He's like, hey, young guys, like, they want discipline. Because like, it almost makes their life easier. Like, hey, these are the expectations. If you don't do it, this is what happens.
That's right.
Like, there's no, like, it is black and white now in this program with what they expect you to do and what happens if you don't meet that expectation. Like, there's no gray area. There's not any leniency. Like, it is what it is. And it sounds like the guys, and I know it's not going to be for everybody, and we'll see who hops into the portal. Like, I think it's naive to believe that no one's going to hop into the transfer portal after spring ball is over. Like, that's going to happen. But yeah, you're right. It's like, we keep hearing this, like, oh, he's a new guy. Oh man, he's completely bought it. Like, either we're being lied to or it's happening, man.
Well, that's what I'm saying is, I mean, I think sometimes like there's like a new energy, right? Whenever there's change happening, and everyone like buys in, and there's just like this surge of like, and this is like in business, this is anywhere. There's like this surge of energy, and okay, here's how we're going to do it. This is awesome. I think this is going to work, and then slowly but surely you settle back into the old way, right? And you kind of lose that buzz and you lose that hunger and energy. Well, I can assure you that that isn't going to happen. Like there is no, we'll just settle back into how we've been doing things. So it makes me believe that yes, it's happened, and yes, it's real and sustainable.
Yeah. Okay. Other tackles we need to talk about. Savion Byrd. I think he just might be the most talented guy in the room. Man, he just needs, and it's hard to have confidence, like have a lot of confidence when you haven't gone out there in games and done it, right? But if he could just gain some confidence, if I don't know if I could inject it into him, I would. But if he was just a little more confident and a little more sure of himself, dude, the sky's the limit for this kid. Now, there's no doubt he needs to be more consistent on the practice field. Like there are some moments where he looks like one of the best offensive linemen in the country. And then there's other moments where you're like, dude, what are you doing? Where are you going? Which is not exactly uncommon with the young offensive lineman, but it is just, it's maddening. It's maddening at times. But you can't be up and down like that and play for Beatonbow. You just can't. So if he can gain that confidence, be just completely sure of what he's doing in this new system that Levy's installing, man, he can play some valuable snaps for this team. But he's got to put it all together on the field. The guy works his ass off in the weight room. He's strong. He's athletic. He can run. Like he is a high level. Like he is one of the guys that you talk to the coaching staff and they say, hey, if he figures it all out, guy's going in the first round. But he's got to figure it all out. He's got to figure it all out. And this staff is going to continue to push him and force him to figure it all out. And when he does, he's going to be a damn good football player. But it's not quite there yet. Not quite.
See, my question with Byrd is guard until he starts to figure some things out and gains a little bit more experience, because he's only a redshirt freshman, right?
Right. No, right. He's a young player. And when you look at the three tackles that I think are the most talented, right? Byrd makes the most sense to bump inside, in my opinion, whether it's right guard, left guard, but I don't know. I don't know, because he certainly, he even kind of looks like a guard, looks like a super athletic, like guard. Mm-hmm. But usually if a guy can't figure it out at tackle and can't handle it, you just bump him in. But I don't know, man, because Wanya's been practicing at such a high level and Anton's been practicing at such a higher level than he has been, that it's like, okay, if he's one of your best five, you want to get him on the field. I understand what you're saying.
It may be one of those things where like that's the easy move, but let's stress him at tackle through the spring, probably even through training camp. And then once you've done that and got him a bunch of experience at tackle, and then you're into the season, and maybe at that point you start looking at bumping him in, but I don't know.
No, I'm with you. Okay. Other tackles, Aaryn Parks. It's a name you need to know now, right? Now he had to miss some practices early in spring ball, but they really like the progress they've seen from him. He's improved his mobility. He's in better shape. Plays with some solid balance. When I've seen him, this is a guy he's going to be in the mix at right tackle. Like when Wanya had to miss, Aaron Parks was taking reps with the ones. So he is a guy that I think Bill he's starting to recognize that he can provide some consistency. He's got good size at 6'5", 3. I think he's just under 315 right now. So he's a guy that, they were hoping could give them some depth, and they're pleased with the progress he's made for sure.
Yeah. Well, I know that depth is going to be critical, and it always is, especially at tackle. We've seen years where you don't have depth and you've got to mess with your entire offensive line, bump a guy out. He's got to play a new position and get acclimated. And it's nice to see that there's a pretty deep little roster here of guys that are improving and getting some good solid play at tackle.
Yeah, last guy, Tyler Guyton, the transfer from TCU, just a massive human.
He's huge.
But he's 325. He's 6'7", 325, and he looks skinny. Yeah. Like he is a guy that just give him some time. Give him some time. He's got a great attitude. Really cares, and I think he can be a solid player. He needs some physical and some technical development. But you look at the raw materials, yeah, I think that Bedenbaugh's pretty excited about what he could become. But I think that's more down the line. But you never know. Like if he has a great summer with Schmitty, maybe he ends up in the mix. We'll see. But he is just a big dude. Like you walk, you're like, oh my God.
It's like, whose helmet is that? Gigantic helmet that's taller than everyone else's out there, just moseying around. Pretty funny.
Yeah, and he wears like a hoodie under his pads, and you're like, what? It's a big guy. All right, let's talk some interior offensive line. Everyone's favorite position.
Oh, yeah.
But first, the only place to stop when you're road tripping is Love's Travel Stops. Love's has over 600 locations in 41 states, offering 24-hour access to clean and safe places. Whatever your road trip needs are, Love's has it. Fuel, fresh food, all the snacks and drinks, including, yes, my favorite, Java Amore. That coffee is fantastic. I feel like I really hit that one. That one felt good.
You did that.
Thanks, man.
Vibrato, you just really held that out. That's pretty good.
Thanks, man. Love's also has you covered if you forget your phone charger or headphones. They've expanded their mobile to-go zone, so you can grab any of that stuff there. Make sure you download the Love's Connect app for exclusive offers from today's most popular brands. The Love's Connect app also includes a route planner and store locator. When you see that red neon heart on the highway, stop in and say hi at Love's Travel Stops. For a full list of what Love's has to offer, visit loves.com.
Opolis Clothing is the exclusive home for all of our Oklahoma Breakdown merchandise. If you want to live your life in buttery, soft comfort, go to opolisclothing.com. OPOLIS clothing.com. Use our promo code TED, TED, for 10% off your entire order. You still get a discount on all of the OU and Oklahoma City Thunder gear as well. That's opolisclothing.com. Use promo code TED for 10% off. Buttery soft and 10% off.
McKade Mettauer. I think I'm saying that right. I haven't been able to ask him yet. Mettauer. Mettauer sounds better, right?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, that's it. So, guy played a lot of football at Cal, as you guys know. Solid player and getting better. Guy's a grinder. Just gets it. He's an O-lineman, man. He just physical. I mean, will mix it up. Guy knows how to work.
Weird. And kind of dirty. Like hangs around with the same group of guys in the locker room with their weird inside jokes.
Yep. Nailed it. And I'll say this. He is a very similar body type to Ben Powers. And I don't know if it's just because he's wearing 72, but you look at him and you're like, oh, when I saw him for the first time, I was like, oh, that guy kind of looks like Ben Powers, like his body. And I'm weird. I just look at I don't even look at faces. I'm just looking at the body type of the guy. Now, I'll say this. I hope he ends up playing like Ben Powers. That'd be nice.
Yeah. Yep.
That'd be awfully nice.
Stud.
But they've been really pleased with his toughness, really pleased with how he has kind of integrated himself into the program. I expect him to be a starter. I do. I think that he's consistent, he's reliable, he's mature, strong. Like, he's everything you want in an interior guy. And I think that Bill's really, really pleased with how he's looked so far.
It's good. Like, when you've got guys that are, it's kind of weird to say, but we need some experience in there, right? Need a little bit of that grit, that kind of grindy nastiness that you're talking about. So to add him on the interior, that's excellent. And it sounds like, you know, if the tackle spot comes together and interior stays healthy, that like the three interior guys could end up having a really high ceiling.
Yeah, certainly helps if you have good tackles. You get good tackle play. All right, Chris Murray. He's just in way better shape than he was in last season. And there was a couple times last year I was like, man, what are we doing? Why are we looking the way we're looking? And he's tightened it up. He's tightened up. And I will say this about Chris, and I'll be open about this. I like Chris as a guy. He's awesome. So I have some bias towards this dude. I just like how much pride he takes in his play. And this is one of those guys, I just wish if he was 6'4", he'd be a first rounder because he got the right mentality. He's got good technique. Like, he cares. He wants to get better, all of that stuff. And he's working on getting better with his hands. And something that I talked to him about and that he is focusing on is, man, you have to understand your limitations, right? With your lack of length. And tried to explain to him, like, hey, you need to protect yourself against some of that stuff, right? You need to not put yourself in bad spots. Like, and now he understands a little more. That's like, dude, you have short arms. You should never punch someone and press them away. Like, never do that. Do not let them restart ever, you short arm T-Rex looking dude. Just grab everyone all the time, hold all the time. And so he's starting to understand some of that stuff, and he's in a battle for the right guard spot. And, you know, there's been points in spring ball where, you know, he'd been relegated to second team, and now he's back up to first team. And it's just, he is down for the battle. And it's all about him wanting to be the best player he can be. And I like everything about it. I like the kid's vibe also, but he's a solid guy that he's played a lot of football. So, I mean, if that's the worst you're going to do at right guard, there's a lot of teams in the country that this kid would start for. So I know he's not the size you want your starting guard to be, but he's a solid player that has the right attitude, and he cares, man. He cares. So if he ends up being the right guard, I know this. When he trots out there on game day, he's going to give it all he's got. And it's really all you can ask for.
I could be wrong, but I feel like this type of running scheme is way more suited for his strengths, to where he can just blow off the football, combo up to the backer, and instead of like the position stuff.
It is much better. And it allows him, like, because he's not a tall dude, right?
Mm-hmm.
You come off the football with low pads and some leverage in the zone running game, you can move some dudes now. And with how aggressive he is, kind of the nastiness he plays with, like, he's a physical guy that also he's got some weight room strength. So, yeah, it's been, you know, running game wise, I think it's been a really good change for him. Like you're saying, allows him to come off the rock and use that aggression and use that mentality he plays with. And that's why he's, I mean, I'm telling you, there's bigger guys, but he's not going down without a fight. I mean, I will not be surprised at all if he's your starting right guard against UTEP. Not at all.
Yeah. Well, I like it. I know that one of the things that you had talked about with him is that he's kind of he can be a road grader type of guy when given that type of opportunity. So uh, I like to hear that he's picking up on some of those things, some of the nuance, which is what happens as you get more experience. You start to, like you said, learn your limitations. Like as soon as you know everything good enough to where you start learning how your body mechanics and everything fit into the puzzle, that's whenever you're about to start taking some big steps as a player.
Yep, no doubt. Okay, Marcus Alexander. This guy's in the mix. He's in the mix for a starting guard position. He's worked really hard on his body, and he's still got some more work to do, but he's lost weight, has worked, has certainly felt the effects of Jerry Schmidt. But if he can lose a little more weight, get in a little better shape, man, I've seen some snaps. This dude is moving people. I mean, absolutely coming off the rock and moving people. And one of the reasons, like, he's got to get in better shape because they're playing with that tempo that they're playing with. Like, you have to be in really, really good shape to keep up with Levy's system as an offensive lineman. But there's no doubt they're excited about the progress that Marcus Alexander has made. And he's playing, it's not even close. He's playing his best football since he's been at OU. So he'll be battling for, if I had to guess, he'll be battling for that right guard spot. But yeah, another guy that really hasn't been a factor the last couple of years that is now certainly in the mix.
That's good. Again, just like tackle, I like that there's starting to be a decent amount of depth at some of the interior spots.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk some center. Now, I will say this. Bray Walker, he's a massive human being. There's no doubt about it. But you just you've got to be reliable. You have to be reliable to play snaps for Bill Bedenbaugh. And he just hasn't quite gotten there. And I know that he's an Oklahoma guy and he's a 5-star guy. We're all rooting for him, right? But it has to be more consistent if he wants to get on the field. I know a lot of people have asked, will this be the year where it all clicks for him? I don't see it happening personally, but you never know. There's a lot that can happen between now and between when we kick this thing off in the fall.
I still wish they would have moved him to D-line.
The Jordan Davis.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't know. I will say this. He's huge.
I mean, sometimes
and strong as hell.
He's huge and strong as hell. Like, I don't know how often, like, Venables plays. I haven't seen, like, their short yardage and goal line, like, looked at it or anything, but, like, I don't know if they ever play, like, a bear or anything and have a guy just head up on the center and say, just destroy that guy. I mean, I don't know. I think, like,
I can tell you from experience, if Bray Walker came out there just for, like, short yardage and goal line, I would be so sad. Like,
that's what I'm saying.
Just like, oh my God.
Yeah. Just destroy that one guy right there. And I think, like, if you've been somewhere for as long as Bray has and you're stuck, like you're in a rut, right? And you probably have given up on being a starter or any type of, like, game changer for the team. And then you're given a new role, man, it can light a fire under someone. It really can.
No doubt. All right. Couple centers to talk about. Andrew Raym. I'll start here. He seems like he's in a much better place mentally, has way more confidence. He's got a new mentality. And I think he's excited about how motivated everyone in the offensive line room is to get better. And unfortunately, he's missed the majority of spring ball, which is not ideal, right? When you're installing a new offense, when you've got these new schemes under Levy. But I think this is likely to be the starting center, when the season rolls around, but stuff happens. So, he hasn't He hasn't gotten to take a ton of reps during spring ball, but he needs to have a great summer. Got to have a great summer, and it's kind of one of those things where I'll wait and see, but I can't wait to see what he looks like in the fall.
It's really frustrating that he's missed so much spring. Like, of all the people that I feel like needed to have a ton of time and be in that grind and have beaten Bo like all over him for all of the spring, I feel like it was Raym.
Yeah, I'm with you. I agree. Beanbo was all over him last year. But everything I've heard is good. So we'll see, but there's really not much to talk about when it comes to his progress as a player, because the snaps haven't been there, So that means Robert Congel is taking a bunch of snaps at center, and dude is solid. I mean, he is. When you talk about having him as a backup interior guy, he's a valuable piece to this football team. Now, there's guys that are definitely more talented, but there will be no hesitation putting him out there, and you know what he's going to do on the field. You know what you're getting, and no one can question that dude's toughness. He's practiced all spring with the club on his left hand, and he's got a great beard. So
which is miserable.
Oh,
a club on the hand in playing football is miserable.
It's not fun, but he's handled it like a champ. He handled it like a champ.